Welcome to the Mentality YouTube channel. Make sure you head down below, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with your friends. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Mentality Podcast, the most interesting podcast on the planet Earth.
Is this ASMR or what are you doing? Welcome back to the Mentality Podcast.
My name is Ben. Oh. God. That is, gives me the fucking shivers, man.
What, me scratching my beard or what?
No, it's just...
I literally just scratched my beard into the microphone.
I thankfully couldn't hear that, because that might make me just fucking quit this entire thing.
But I bet it was picked up on the audio, though, so have fun editing that.
That was the intro, by the way. I don't intend on doing anything more special than that.
Yeah, welcome back. This is episode 3 of however many we're planning on doing first season.
3, probably.
Yeah, probably 3. And...
looks like this week I can actually see Wolf, which is a huge development in the world of the Mentality Podcast, if you watched episode 2 on YouTube.
And if you did, God help you.
It was my fault. I apologize. I said, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's never going to be fine.
It'll be fine. Famous last words. Things never go well. There's always got to be something that goes wrong, and 9 times out of 10, it's Ben's fault.
Always. Pretty much always. Are you just like browsing TikTok while you're doing the podcast, or what?
No, I'm looking at the episode script, but just for the record, I want to make it clear that I'm not on TikTok. I never will be on TikTok. I know this. I'm fairly certain this podcast has a TikTok, but
yeah, that's all my doing. Again, 9 times out of 10, it's my fault.
Yeah, nothing to do with me. You'll never find me on that app.
You will see him, but you will not find him.
You'll see me.
We'll have like millions of followers, and he literally won't even know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was listening to Son of a Boy Dad today.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized that we have a lot more in common with that podcast than we care to admit.
What, we're both degenerates?
Both degenerates, both have way too much to say. Both try really hard to be funny, but we're just simply not.
Speak for yourself on that last one.
Actually, they're funny. They're funny. Why don't you tell me the story about wanting to quit your job and move into a studio?
I mean, that's completely off script, but all right.
You gotta try things out.
So should I just delete this entire thing? Like, can we just say fuck it and we're abandoning the entire concept of this episode?
I support it. I mean, I don't know who writes it. It's certainly not me.
Yeah, we have a very small but dedicated staff of writers, and I imagine they're at home ripping their hair out right now.
As I rip my hair out, so I'm the only writer.
As Ben rips his hair out, you better take a minute to fix that. Otherwise, you're gonna have a real Jimmy Neutron thing going on the rest of this episode.
I honestly think that would sell. You know what they say? Sex sells.
Got a blast.
Got a blast.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, like, you know what they say? Got a blast.
That changed definitions really quickly right there.
So I think I've mentioned this in one of the first 2 episodes, but I write music and play music, and I've been working on an album for the last probably year and a half, at least. And I think my problem is that I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to these things. Like I've written and rewritten some of the same songs over and over and over, and just haven't gotten to. So yeah, I've basically been working on an album for a year and a half, and I'm not even done half the songs on the album. But basically, yeah, I was saying to you just before we hit record on this thing here was that I find that work lately is just really killing my creativity, and that anytime off I have from work, I never end up channeling into anything meaningful when it comes to that project. And I think the only way I'm really gonna make any strides towards finishing that and achieving what I want to achieve with it is if I actually quit my job and focus all my energy on that project.
I promise this is related to the episode topic. I did ask this for a reason, but
all right, I trust you. Famous last words.
I asked that because I heard a few stories this week, and I read a book last year, which is like probably my favorite book. Russ's book talks about how he quit his job as like a pizza delivery guy when he was 18, and he just like lived on a buddy's couch who happened to own a studio in LA or some shit like that, and he just like grinded it out while he was doing that, which like reminded me exactly of what Wolf was saying. So I read that like last year. But I also heard a story this week about a guy on TikTok, and I know I brought up TikTok and it also seemed unrelated, but I promise this all connects. I'm a mastermind of connecting things together.
Oh, I'm just waiting to see where this goes.
His name's Ty Verdes. He had like a top, I think it was like a top 10 song last year, a couple of them, but they blew up through TikTok while he was working at a Verizon store. He was literally singing bits of the song while he worked at a Verizon store. And I watched an interview with him this week, and he was explaining like how he went through the process of writing and that he was literally living in a living room, just making music on the side while he worked at Verizon. It's like super interesting to see how like the mindsets kind of all connect together. But that leads to my next point, which is I think social media is kind of like dominating the like what is the music industry lately. I don't know if you agree with that, but
it's hard for me to say because I'm not super into like modern pop or rap or anything, like any stuff that's really big right now. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I'm a hipster or anything, but most of the stuff that I'm into is like, you know, I'm a big fan of metal and I'm a big fan of like older, I'm trying to think how to describe this, but like I just don't listen to a lot of stuff that is like played on the radio very often. So I'm not big into like the culture of Billie Eilish and whoever's big right now. So I think you're probably right. I think it is really, I mean, we're kind of in the era of SoundCloud rappers and people making beats on the internet to get big. So you're probably right in that respect. But yeah, that's kind of part of my problem is that I'm not big in self-promotion. I've never uploaded anything to SoundCloud. Pretty much the only exposure my music has ever gotten has been the couple songs I've sent you to use in your videos.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I find music really interesting. It's the one thing that's always interested me since before we were even friends is how artists can go from understanding they have talent to building an audience that supports them to like getting signed by record labels and stuff. It's pretty interesting, but now like no one wants record labels.
No, well, I mean, physical records are dying basically. Music has gone from like record sales to CD sales to now it's all about streaming.
Right.
And artists make, from what I understand, artists make fuck all from streaming. So basically the only way now really to make money in the music industry is to tour. It's not really the same in the age of like Kiss and AC/DC and Van Halen when they were selling millions of copies of albums and going platinum and multi-platinum and shit. Now it's basically like the only way I'm going to make any money doing this is if I tour and sell merch and ticket sales and all that stuff. Because streaming, I think I read that they make like less than a cent per stream, something like that.
It's a tenth of a cent per stream.
Tenth of a cent, yeah. So
on Spotify, Tidal, which I don't remember who started Tidal. I think it was like Jay-Z or
Jay-Z,
someone.
yeah.
They pay like, I think it's a cent per.
Yeah, but nobody fucking has Tidal. Have you ever met anyone that has Tidal?
No, and that's exactly why, like, as far as I understand, they almost went into business this year, and then the CEO of Twitter, Jack, bought Tidal this year, and they're going to do something with it. But I don't know. Like, making it as a musician is probably the most oversaturated thing. So social media has helped from what I can see. Like, people have used it to grow, but it's so tough, so competitive. I can't imagine being in that position. So
yeah, no, that's a good point you make with the oversaturation, because it's very different making it in the music industry now, because making it in the past, in the era of like bands that went huge, it was all a matter of timing, basically. Like, it was all a matter of getting seen by the right person at the right time, or getting like knowing somebody. Whereas now, same with podcasts. I mean, podcasts weren't a thing, but like just getting big in general was a matter of being seen by the right person. Whereas now with the internet, anybody can have their content seen by anybody. You know, it's the easiest time ever to distribute things to a large audience like that. So what, like you said, with the oversaturation of the market, I feel like the odds of ever making it have gone from like 1,000,000 to 1 to basically 1,000,000,000 to 1 now.
Yeah, I also feel like a lot of the times, and even I was guilty of this for a while, it was like a competition. There's like 1,000,000 people on SoundCloud, so it'll be harder to grow. Or like there's 1,000,000 people trying to get noticed for podcasts, so it'll be harder to grow. But ultimately, like, if you have something to say, you have a story to tell, you have like music that people want to listen to, people are willing, and there's always an infinity amount of things that people will consume. Like, some songs trend for 5 days, some songs trend for a year, but ultimately someone listened to it and it had a platform for X amount of time. But When did you start on social media? When was like your...
My first foray into the world of wasting time.
Yeah, I was going to say your social media virginity taken, but I don't think that really makes much sense.
No, and that's I'm glad we didn't use that one.
It sounds like you're like talking to people on like chats online.
When did you pop your social media cherry?
Yeah, exactly.
I believe it would have been Facebook when I was in grade 8.
No, MySpace?
No, I was never on MySpace.
Shit.
Wasn't MySpace big in like 05?
Yeah, like 04, 05, 06 probably.
Yeah, so we were like 6 or 7 years old.
I don't know what math you're doing, but I was 8 in 2006 when I made my MySpace. I remember typing that in.
In 2005?
6.
Okay, yeah, in 6 you would have been, yeah, okay, whatever. But, so yeah, that's not the question. Facebook would have been the first one for me, and that was because everybody in my class had it, and I was the only one that didn't. So it was just incessant, get a Facebook account, like, why don't you have a Facebook, Wolf? So eventually I was like, fine, fuck it, I'll make a Facebook account. And looking back, honestly, I wish I never had. I wish I had never, ever gotten into social media at all, because that kind of sent me off the deep end where I got a Twitter and an Instagram and all that stuff.
I started with MySpace in 2006, which died really quickly. No one used it. And then I was kind of like, I don't know. We didn't really use anything, I guess. And then Facebook was huge. And I remember it was 2008 when I made a Facebook, because that is the first year that I have posts that I get memories from. And let me tell you, I wish I could like set a filter to stop seeing memories from before 2012, because holy fuck, why did I have to be on Facebook in 2008?
Yeah.
Whew.
I went back and deleted almost everything on my Facebook account. I don't know why I didn't just delete the entire account, but I deleted pretty much everything from that time, because it was just a complete myriad of like cringy TBH posts and all that stupid shit, and it's just nobody that young needs to have a platform with a voice like that. So no, I definitely I shouldn't have gotten it back then.
Do you remember like when there was the Facebook pages and stuff, and you would like a million Facebook pages? Was that like something you were involved in?
Yeah, I mean, I would, you would like the Facebook pages of like your favorite musicians and sports teams and stuff. And I mean, it's, I guess, the same thing as like following them on Twitter now, because Twitter is the only one that I still use regularly, I guess. Not to really post anything, but the one that I actually check regularly. So yeah, I remember that, like liking all of...
I remember specifically, though, there was like pages that had names that were like supposed to be relatable or whatever, and you'd like press like on the name of the page. Anyways, I followed like so many pages, and they posted such garbage content. And after a few years, like it's 2016, I'm 18 years old at this point, and I'm still seeing this garbage content that I saw when I was fucking 8 and or 10, I guess. But like, oh, so annoying. I had to unfollow like 500 pages. It was really, really time consuming. What do you use now?
So the two that I predominantly use would be Twitter and Instagram. Again, I very rarely ever post anything on either of these. I guess Snapchat counts as one too, right?
Yeah, it would.
Aside from that, I do still have my Facebook account, but I never check it. Twitter I just like because it's basically where I get news from.
Yeah.
Instagram is just for watching stories. So basically all they do is like take time away that I should be channeling into other things in my life, like writing my album.
Facebook is probably one of the biggest time wastes of my life because I hate it, and I still spend so much time on it for no reason. Instagram, I used to love. Fucking hate it now. It's filled with so much stupidity. It's oversaturated. It's like built to make you buy things. And I strongly dislike it. Twitter, I find, is like a great tool to get information quickly. Like someone will tweet news before they write an article now. So if you're on Twitter, you don't really need subscriptions to news services. You can get that information like that. And I very much so enjoy that about Twitter. But that's probably the only one I enjoy using. And now I'm like, look at my screen time every now and then, and I just fucking hate how much time I spend on social media because it's such a waste.
Yeah, no, when they first introduced that screen time thing on iPhone, dude, I was mortified when I would see that. Like constantly would have like 8 hours a day on my phone. It was just ridiculous.
What is it now? I can tell you what mine was from last week.
The week that I was at my cottage, it was ridiculous how much it went down.
Yeah, because you have something to do.
Well, no, because the whole point of being out there, like, I made a concerted effort to, like, not pick up my phone. Like, I remember the Sunday that I was there, which was the first full day I was there, my screen time that day was 24 minutes.
Hell yeah. Love to see it.
This week has been 6 hours and 56 minutes.
Oh, damn. Yours is higher than mine.
Monday, I spent 9 hours and 40 minutes on my phone.
Let me see. Let me check mine, actually, so we have the updated information.
But also, I want to quantify that by saying that it's not always me just sitting here checking Twitter. I listen to music so much during the day.
That's fair.
I have a feeling that at least 3 to 4 hours of it is just my phone sitting there with Spotify open.
All right, well, I'm trying to find my screen time right now. So my daily average this week is 4 hours and 39 minutes. I don't know how. I feel like I spend all fucking day on social media. How is that?
You want to know the sad thing? Is that my daily average this week is 6 hours, 56 minutes, and it says that's... Oh, I thought it said it was down 21% from last week. It's up 21%. Okay.
Well, that's better.
I don't know what happened last week, but I remember one day it said I was on my phone for 18 hours and 54 minutes, and there's no way that's correct, because that's impossible.
It's like the entire time you're awake in a day.
Literally. So I remember looking at that like... I don't know what happened there. I must have either left my phone open and unlocked on something, but I was looking at that like, what the fuck? How did I spend 18 hours on my phone? There's no way.
Some random weird day where you entirely forgot to lock your phone for 18 hours straight. Like, just it sat on a table unlocked, and you just somehow, by fluke, did not lock it all day.
I guess, because, I mean, there's no way that I did that. I don't even think I was awake for 18 hours that day.
My mom was off work last year, so if you're watching this, Mom, I'm sorry I'm calling you out, but her screen time was like 13 hours a day. It was hilarious. She had nothing to do.
She's probably playing games a lot, though, right?
Yeah, like Candy Crush. Did you ever play those Facebook games back in like 2010? Like Farmville and all that shit?
No, because I didn't get Facebook until about 2012, so that was kind of after the time when those were popular. I definitely was guilty of playing a lot of games on my phone when I was younger. Like, I remember Flappy Bird and all that shit, but... and Angry Birds, obviously, the OG, but, I waste enough time on that thing as it is. I don't need to be, like, staring at a little 8-inch screen all the time. Rather stare at this 14-inch screen instead.
Yeah, exactly. I have two 20-inch screens that I spend most of my day. I literally spend, like, all day looking at screens. I literally was working today. I actually slept in today and got into work, like, 40 minutes late. That was not my proudest moment, but I stared at screens for about 8 hours, came home, instantly set up my phone for this call and my 2 monitors for this podcast. So now I have 3 screens I'm looking at, and I probably am going to get radiation shit by the time I'm like 25.
Grind doesn't stop.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, when did you get your first cell phone?
So my first phone would have been this flip phone that I shared with my mom, probably when I started grade 7, just because that was like the first time I was going to school, like a little bit further away from my house. So they wanted me to have a phone with me for like emergencies.
Right.
The first phone that I got was, I believe, grade 9, like an actual smartphone. It was a Samsung Galaxy Q. And that was one of those ones with like the slide out QWERTY keyboards. And I fucking hated that thing. It was brutal. Like, texting on that thing was so annoying.
Man, my brother in 7th grade got a flip phone. And you would think, first one in the family. You wouldn't understand this, I guess, because you're an only child, luckily.
Only child, brother.
When the older sibling fucks something up, everyone else has to pay for the fucking consequences. So my brother, in his wise age of 12 years old in 7th grade, got his first flip phone because, they wanted him to be safe, make sure he had the ability to stay in contact. And within about 5 days, he'd burned through every single one of his prepaid minutes for the month and had called and bought a bunch of ringtones that had cost a fair bit of money from the account. So that about did it. 5 days of my brother having a cell phone, and as a result, I didn't get my first phone till I was 15, and it was a 2000 BlackBerry, like the oldest fucking thing you could see.
Oh yeah.
All I could do was play Pong, and then eventually upgraded to another BlackBerry and finally got my first touchscreen phone with no plan till I was 18 and could pay for it myself. So shout out to my brother for that.
Yeah, brothers are the worst, man. I would know.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. I'm sure you're speaking from experience right there. Speaking from the heart.
Speaking directly from the heart. Can't stand my fucking brother.
I was gonna say, what phone? When was like? How often do you update your phone? Do you do like every year you get a new one, or like?
So we used to have the company that my dad used to work for before they ceased operations. We would get like a deal through them, so like my phone bill ended up being a lot cheaper. So we were usually doing, I think it was like 3-year contracts at a time, something like that. At the end of the last contract, since that company ceased operations, and I'm pretty sure it's expired, but they've never said anything, I think because of COVID. So I'm still waiting to see, because I have an iPhone X right now, and I'm waiting to see if I'm supposed to like go in to redo my plan, because I'm pretty sure it's going to end up costing a lot more money to keep the amount of data and everything I have now. But no, normally it was about every 3 years or so, because before this I had an iPhone 6S, or the big one, whatever that was called, 6S Plus maybe.
When I first turned 18, I got one phone, then I got another phone, and then I've had this phone. This is in like September. It'll be 4 years I've had this phone, which is, it's certainly starting to get pretty slow, but like I just am holding off as long as I possibly can, because I just don't want to be giving into the like materialism where I need that new Apple chip every year to carry around in my pocket. I would love an iPhone 12 Pro Max, whatever, because, you know, great camera quality. It'll be great for my TikTok followers. I get like 100 views a video, so I mean, it really isn't that serious, but I don't know. I feel like phones are just like, it's the same thing as social media. I just don't want to give in. I'm like holding off as long as I can.
Yeah, even I think about it similarly, that phones are like social media, in the sense that I almost wish I never got one, because it's just, this fucking thing occupies so much of my time that like I don't remember how I used to function when I didn't have one of these things in my pocket all the time.
Right.
To like, you know, I feel like it's made me worse at social interactions, because if I'm ever like out somewhere by myself, I'm not comfortable unless I have my phone, and I'm like even pretending that I'm doing something, just so that people aren't staring at me like, what's that guy looking for? What's he doing? But
I've tried to make like a deliberate effort to not do that anymore.
Oh man, the 3 years I was in university, if I was ever looking for a new building and I got lost, I would right away go to the phone as like a defense mechanism, just so that people didn't think that I was lost.
That's kind of funny.
Or like if I walk past the room, I would do like a fake, like take the phone out and then turn around and be like, I get it. Like, I figured it out now. But like, yeah, this thing is just my fucking lifeline now, and I hate it.
I feel like I used to be really good about responding to texts, and then my life got busy, and now I'm like, okay, I have like 31 texts, and I have like Instagram DMs and all these notifications. I'm like, I'll check it like in a couple hours, but somehow still my screen time is 4 hours a day. But I hate opening it. I love opening my phone, but I hate actually doing anything on it. I'm sure you've seen it a couple times. I'll just blatantly ignore a group chat for like 8 hours, and then suddenly I pop in for like 20 minutes.
I never really think about it, because I know that of the three of us, you're the three of us in the group chat, you're obviously the busiest, because I mean, I work part-time, and our friend works like 3 hours a day, and then you're the one that seems to never not be working, so.
Not wrong.
Would you consider yourself a workaholic?
Yeah, I've tried to be better about it. I try to like actually take time to relax on weekends now when I can, but yeah, no, I like find that I'm working constantly, like personal projects, actual job, whatever. I just like am constantly doing something, which isn't good. It's not healthy.
Yeah, but it's different for you in the sense that like your job and your personal projects, there's a complete overlap there.
Yeah, it makes it worse.
Like, I don't come home and scan groceries in my free time.
Yeah, but if you were making music for, I know it sounds wonderful at the moment, but if you're making music for 18 hours a day, you would go insane.
Yeah.
It's not good for your mental health to keep doing the same thing. So like, kind of why the podcast is nice, because I don't really do any on-camera stuff anymore. I like record a YouTube video for like 20 minutes a week and then edit it for like 18 hours. But like being able to have conversation and do stuff like that is interesting. It's different. So I don't know how you're going to even respond to this question, but I love to note about social media stardom. in the event that this podcast were to take off and you had a bunch of people DMing and responding to you on Twitter, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, when we're both rich as fuck and like bigger than Joe Rogan.
Speaking of which, this podcast is sponsored by Manscaped. No, it isn't. We're gonna get a suit for that. Gonna catch a case.
Then Manscaped can sponsor us so we can pay for the suit.
Have you noticed that I keep trying to derail your answers until you just like say, yeah, no, I'd love that.
You know what though? I've made a living, and by a living I mean I've spent a good chunk of my life saying things that are disruptful, and you know that. I mean, I often play a game with myself where I just try to think of what's the worst thing I could say or do.
That is going to lead into our next topic perfectly, so I'll let you answer the question, but...
Why, do you want to just say fuck the question and go into the next one?
No. How would you feel with social media just fucking ragging on you constantly?
This is just me having an elaborate workaround to not wanting to answer the question. The other day I had 25 porn bots add me on Snapchat in a 24-hour period. Approximately.
Primo.
So I feel like it would kind of be like that. I feel like it would be a minor annoyance, but I know that like for people on Instagram or on social media who are actually verified, I think it's easier for them to like sort that shit out.
Oh yeah.
Like to stop getting DMs from randoms and people who aren't verified. So I mean, if we ever got to the point where we would be that big, I don't really think it would be that much of a problem. But in the meantime, I mean, you know, as long as people are cordial or as long as they're, you know, kind, I don't really give a fuck if you want to send me a message.
Bro, you heard it here first. Haters? Not part of the Mentality family. The Mentality Nation. Alright, stop looking at me like that.
I just wanted to watch you wallow in that, because I know as soon as you started, you realized it was a failed bit.
I don't even know where I was going with that, but, yeah, on Instagram I have my account set up as a creator account, and if I get a random DM from someone who is not someone I follow or follows people in my circle, it goes immediately to my DM request. So that led into my next point, because you said you like to say things that are, you know, a little out there sometimes, or think about what you could say. You are sending things, you are on your phone. You're sending things in a group chat right now as we speak from Twitter. I swear to God, I knew it. Can you include in that message that you're recording the podcast right now? We are literally 30 minutes into a recording.
This will make great content, just complete silence and me texting on the phone.
This is like when a teacher gets really mad at you and they're like, sit in the corner for 5 minutes. We're halfway through recording episode 3 right now. Ben is pissed. Not wrong.
Well, I mean...
It's a confession. Anyways, saying things that toe the line often leads to getting canceled. So, let's talk about cancel culture.
You go ahead, I'll be in the group chat.
The commitment levels are through the roof.
Oh, fuck off.
I'll scroll through TikTok at some point in this episode, I'm sure.
My mom, not to throw my mom under the bus, but my mom will sit in the living room and watch TikToks at full volume for hours.
Love it. I support the hustle. You said you like to toe the line. Cancel culture often results from when people toe the line.
I don't know about that. I mean, you know, I think they're more than towing the line. I don't think they can even see the line anymore.
Well, when you've long since crossed the line, that's often when you're getting canceled. Mm-hmm. That sounds like I'm leading into an ad read or something. You've probably been canceled because you crossed the line. Introducing...
You've been canceled. Need a new identity?
Better call Saul.
I'll burn your paint fingerprints off.
Basically, like, the way I see cancel culture, it's the way people are... It's the idea is to hold people accountable for making stupid decisions, but ultimately I don't ever think it works, because like 2 weeks later the creator comes out and they make an apology video like, I'm sorry, I learned, I promise, I've thought about my own actions and realized that I'm a real piece of shit, but I'm not going to be a piece of shit anymore.
Yeah, the thing that I find with a lot of those apologies is the way that I feel about it is they're never sorry about what they did. They're more sorry that they got caught, I think. The one that got me was there was that kid who got drafted by the Arizona Coyotes a couple of years ago. Might have been last year. And it came out that he had like bullied this kid when he was younger that was developmentally disabled.
Oh, right.
Yeah, do you remember this?
Yes.
I do. He did like really horrible shit to this kid, and it came out after he had been drafted, and basically the mother of the kid who he bullied said that this guy like never made any effort to like even apologize for what he did.
Typical.
Yeah, so like the Coyotes, to their credit, I don't think they knew about it beforehand. It's not like what happened this year with the Montreal Canadiens drafting that kid who had that incident in Sweden.
I don't really know what was going on. I just knew that I'd heard his name for not good reasons.
Because of COVID, he couldn't play junior hockey in North America, so he went to Sweden so he'd have a place to play. And he had what I understand was a consensual sexual encounter over there, but photographed this girl without her permission and then like sent the pictures around to his teammates, who then once you've sent a picture, that's it. Like there's nothing you can control anymore. That picture can get sent around to, millions of people. And even he was like, I don't think I deserve to be drafted this year for what I did. And then Montreal drafted him in the first round.
Fucking unreal.
They're not even really defending what they did. Like I saw an interview with their assistant GM where they asked him like, what was the thought process here? And he basically didn't even answer the question.
He's like, what do you mean?
He was like, can you elaborate on that question further? Like after sitting there, he just sat there for a minute like,
yeah, like obviously knows he did
like,
something.
You guys know
stupid.
This was wrong.
To your point, as far as I remember, some group in Arizona put that guy, I don't even remember what his name was, in...
It was like, Mitch something, I can't remember.
But he was supposed to be leading an anti-bullying movement after that. Like literally weeks after that. He was put in a position that would like have him advocating against bullying.
Yeah, well, the Coyotes ended up renouncing their selection of him at the draft, and he was kicked off his team at the University of North Dakota for that incident.
Yeah.
Similar story, different ending was a few years ago when Andrew Shaw played for the Blackhawks. He got in trouble for he called a referee a homophobic slur. And then when he came to Montreal and the NHL had partnered with You Can Play, which is a charity that's involved in getting LGBTQ plus people involved in sport, every NHL team had to have like a player representative for that charity, and Montreal picked Andrew Shaw.
Oof.
That was his way of like, he said, I understand that what I did was wrong and I want to work to better myself, and I thought that this was a good opportunity to work with this charity.
Getting canceled? Like, I honestly don't think that... Some people think, oh, this guy should never never do what they do again, but it can often be a really good learning experience to take lessons. Like, I'm going to use an example. Logan Paul, who I knew for a long time to be a real piece of shit. I've been very much so enjoying his content lately, and he's actually very interesting to watch. But he was a real fucking piece of shit when he filmed a dead body in a forest that is, like, well known for being a suicide forest. But ultimately he grew from it, learned, he hired people that are going to guide him to make better choices, and, like, canceling is never going to result in people ending their careers. I think it's like a naive expectation to think that that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think what it results in is that canceling is a very extreme reaction.
Yeah.
Extreme reactions, unfortunately, are usually met with extreme reactions. And that's why you have these people who are like so opposed to cancel culture or whatever. That's why you had such a division, I think, in what happened in the United States leading up to the last election, is that you have these two opposite extremes that are fighting against each other. There's no middle ground anymore. Like, it either is, you're either canceled or you're not canceled, I guess. I really don't know what the opposite of canceled would be, but no, it always has to be that, like,
I feel like we had a discussion when we named this podcast, because we named the podcast Mentality, because it's targeted to men and changing the conversation, changing your mentality. But it certainly does sound like that Meninist account that was really popular a couple years ago for posting things that weren't exactly great. So ultimately, are we destined to get canceled one day? Maybe, who knows? But I believe that getting canceled, if approached from the right mindset, can ultimately lead to you being a more responsible person. I know, like, in my life, making mistakes has ultimately led to me being better, and that is the same, provided you don't do something really fucked up.
Yeah, provided you're not a sociopath.
I mean, well, being a sociopath is okay. Being a sociopath that does bad things, on the other hand.
Yeah, well, that was going back to your point. Like when we named the podcast, that was my big fear with that name was that, right, our podcast is aimed at discussions around men and men's mental health and everything, which is fine. But I felt like I didn't want the name to be alienating, and I didn't want it to be for people to assume that it was going to be one of those meninist type things. And that was why we almost didn't pick that name. Like we almost were going to go with something else. Because that's the thing is like, you know, there's been a big movement lately that we need to steer the conversation away from men being the leaders in society, and we need more of a female voice in politics and in leadership roles. And I agree with that. And that's why I didn't think I think, even though I came up with the name, I was against using the name.
I almost feel like it presents that opportunity because people who do believe that that's what the show is going to be about are met with a surprise that forces them to change their mindset, which is kind of why I like the name. Yeah,
and that's what I would hope that's what I hope somebody would take from this, is that they wouldn't listen to this and think, oh, these are two arrogant, you know, toxic masculinity assholes, you know, more that I like to think that we're more of, I don't want to use the term modern men, but I think that's...
We'll get canceled if we're not, so...
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll leave that up to you guys.
All right, so to kind of wrap up this episode, I wanted to have a little conversation about social media and how it affects us. Like, I don't know about you. Personally, I really haven't had much experience in feeling like I need to compare myself to people on social media. I don't know why. I've just never really felt that way.
Maybe when I was starting, maybe when I first was learning how to use them and seeing like other people's follower counts used to be a thing for me. Like I used to like, well, why does this person have 500 followers and why do I only have 100 or that sort of thing. And it was, but then very quickly I realized I'm like, this shit doesn't really matter. You know, this isn't something that I need to be occupying space in my head that much. So not that I really, and I also don't really post anything. So I'm like, you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah. I feel like the only thing it really does for me is FOMO. I get a lot of that when I'm on social media and there's people who are doing something that I want to be doing, but I'm not doing. So there's that. Sometimes there's people who have like lifestyles that I'm like jealous of, I guess, but I've never been jealous. I'm like, oh, I wish I looked like that. I wish I had that. Just like, see people having fun. I'm like, fuck, I would love to be having fun right now. But especially during the lockdown, when we were all stuck inside, like, I'd really love to fucking leave my house right now, and people weren't able to. So
I create enough realities in my own head that I don't need to be like wishing I was someone else or wishing I was doing something else. That you know, I have my own escapes at home that I will throw myself into if I ever find myself in that position. But I try never to be, you know, I've done a lot of work on myself in the last little while, and I'm trying to be more happy with who I am as a person and my life in general. So
probably a healthier way of being. I think also social media can be used for good things. There's people who like to flex on social media to look good, and that ultimately does create those problems in people's heads, which is why screen time is such a problem and something that people should be reducing often. But I feel like overall, if you follow the right people, you surround yourself with content that you actually enjoy, or it makes you think, makes your mind move, whatever, stuff like that, it can be a really great thing to use. But when you start to spend a lot of time just watching content from people who promote like negativity or stuff like that, that can also be a huge thing that creates that problem.
Yeah, like I definitely wish I would have been more active with the block function earlier in my time with these apps, because you know, I have enough aggravation in my daily life that I don't need to, you know, go on Twitter or whatever it is and see stuff that I know is going to bother me. So I just, you know, if I ever find something in my timeline that shouldn't be there and it keeps showing up or something, I just block or mute or any of the above. And you know, I think one of the best, or not the best, I don't want to, the best advice that I ever got with social media was like, you curate what you follow. So be mindful of that. Like, be mindful of who and what you're following, because that's what's going to show up in your feed.
That's a really good point.
Just try to be mindful of who I'm following and why I'm following them.
Yeah, I went through last year and really purged a lot of the people I follow on Instagram, because I was seeing a lot of stuff that just was mindless content, or I'd compare myself as like in terms of skills with other people, which isn't something I normally do, but I was very conscious of how things made me feel, and I would get rid of things that I didn't want to see anymore, and it made my experience a lot better, but it's good to regularly do. Over time, it just gets flooded again, and I found that when I did that, it also made me less, like, it made me more inclined to use my phone and to look at social media, but it made me feel less like I needed to, because I was getting content that I actually wanted to see really quickly, and I wasn't like searching to find something good before I closed my phone. Ultimately, it is what you make it. And if you follow the Mentality Podcast on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, it's the only way that you're gonna get positive content. Block everybody else. All right, I think that about wraps it. I think we got to get this really quickly cut up and put on social media so we can contribute to the noise. So
yeah, man, I'm all about that noise.
Now they're gonna say send it, like you said you were gonna say.
Oh, I thought you were gonna. I thought you would think I was gonna say I'm all about the downforce.
I don't think that's fitting.
If you know me, you know that I'm all about.
Guy for a month.
I'm all about downforce. I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says that.
Did you know that an F1 car can drive upside down? Anyways, follow the Mentality Podcast on YouTube if you're listening to the audio version. If you're listening to it on YouTube, you've made the right choice. Make sure you subscribe.
And if you're watching on TikTok, delete TikTok.
Do not follow us, please. We really need it. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment down below. Share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. And until next week, say something nice to them, Wolf. Just like send them off with a nice little parting gift.
Yeah, I hope everyone has a good week. And if life ever gets tough, just remember, it's all a simulation. None of it matters anyway.
Until next week, goodbye.